Welcome back to PixelPulse, where we delve deep into the pixels of the past. Today, we're stepping into the vibrant neon lights of the golden age of arcade games. Ready for a nostalgic trip? Let's jump in. Journey with me to the late 1970s, a time when the digital age was in its infancy, and the world was getting its first taste of electronic entertainment. Enter the arcade, the neon-soaked realm of bleeps, bloops, and the hypnotic dance of pixels on a screen. Now, most consider 1971's Computer Space as the first commercially available arcade video game. Created by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Dabney, who later founded Atari, this game paved the way for the commercial video game industry. It was a simple game, involving a player-controlled rocket ship battling against two flying saucers, but its significance cannot be overstated. However, while Computer Space might have been a pioneer, it was 1972's Pong that truly caught the public's imagination. You know, the deceptively simple table tennis simulation? It was a smash hit. There's a magical charm in its simplicity. Two paddles, one pixelated ball, and a challenge between friends or foes. The game was so popular that the coin mechanisms often overflowed with quarters. The success of Pong ushered in a flurry of competitors, and thus began the arcade boom. Pinball parlors transformed into arcades. Bowling alleys, bars, and even laundromats wanted a piece of the action. It was an era where innovation was key, and designers were pushing the boundaries of what these rudimentary machines could achieve. From vector graphics games like Asteroids to the emergence of color displays, the foundations for modern gaming were being laid in these bustling, vibrant spaces. And as the technology advanced, so did the depth and complexity of games. The late 70s witnessed the birth of the first arcade gaming genres. Shoot-'em-ups like Space Invaders, racing games like Speed Race, and early dungeon crawlers paved the way for the rich tapestry of game genres we adore today. Following the birth of arcade gaming, a pantheon of legendary titles emerged, forever etching their symbols and characters into the annals of gaming history. Let's talk about Space Invaders, first, released in 1978. Picture rows of alien creatures descending rhythmically, their movements synchronized to an ominous, pulsating beat. It wasn't just a game, it was a phenomenon. The sense of urgency and increasing difficulty of Space Invaders created an addictive gaming experience that drew lines of eager players waiting for their turn. And with its success, the floodgates opened for a genre that would dominate the gaming landscape, the shoot-'em-ups. But if Space Invaders captivated gamers, Pac-Man became a global icon. Released in 1980, it introduced a bright, waka-waka chomping circle navigating mazes and gobbling up dots while evading colorful ghosts. What made Pac-Man so remarkable was its departure from the predominant space and war themes of the era. It appealed to a wider audience, including women, becoming a cultural sensation. There were merchandise, cartoons, and even a hit song dedicated to this legendary game. Now, imagine climbing ladders, jumping over barrels, and facing off against a giant ape. Enter Donkey Kong in 1981, marking the debut of two iconic figures. The titular Kong and a plucky carpenter named Jumpman, who later, as we all know, evolved into Mario. Donkey Kong wasn't just about reflexes. It was also a story-driven experience, introducing the world to narratives in gaming. It's also worth mentioning games like Galaga, with its addictive spaceship combat and challenging bonus rounds, or Centipede, with its colorful, bug-shooting frenzy, and the co-op play of Joust, that fostered camaraderie and competition. These games did more than just entertain. They built communities, inspired countless imitations, and laid the foundation for franchises that continue to thrive today. As cabinets lit up in arcades across the world, a generation was getting its first taste of what would become a lifetime passion. In the whirlwind of arcade gaming's ascent, underlying it all was the rapid advancement of technology. Let's peel back the layers and appreciate the machinery that made magic in those dark, neon-lit rooms. From the very beginning, arcade games were pushing the boundaries of available technology. Remember the monochrome displays of early arcade games? Titles like Pong or Computer Space used simple, minimalistic graphics because that's all the tech would allow. Yet, even within these limitations, they managed to captivate players. By the late 70s, color was beginning to seep into the arcade scene. Games like Breakout used color overlays, giving the illusion of multicolor graphics, even if the monitor was only black and white. But as technology progressed, true color displays became possible, leading to vibrant and more visually appealing games, such as Galaxian, which boasted multicolored sprites and dynamic backgrounds. Around the same time, sound technology took leaps and bounds. Early arcade games offered rudimentary beeps and boops. But with the rise of dedicated sound chips, games like Space Invaders introduced continuous background music, while Pac-Man gave us memorable jingles and sound effects that are iconic even today. Joysticks, buttons, trackballs. The controls evolved too. While the earliest arcade games utilized knobs and very basic button configurations, the industry swiftly moved to more intricate setups. Games like Tempest introduced the spinner, Tron had its unique flight stick with a trigger, and Centipede popularized the trackball. And let's not forget vector graphics, a technology distinct from the pixel-based raster graphics. Games like Asteroids and Battlezone used vector displays to produce crisp, wireframe graphics that had a futuristic feel, setting them apart from their pixelated counterparts. It was a time of intense innovation. Each new technological leap meant a broader canvas for game developers, leading to richer experiences, deeper stories, and more immersive gameplay. These technological evolutions were not just about better graphics or sound. They were about expanding the very notion of what video games could be. The rise of arcade gaming didn't just stay confined within the glowing cabinets and dimly lit rooms of arcades. It echoed far and wide, influencing popular culture in ways few could have imagined. For starters, arcades themselves became social hubs. Teenagers flocked to them, not just for the thrill of the games, but for the camaraderie. Players would crowd around machines, cheering on that one person attempting to break the high score, and friendships were forged over shared gaming experiences. These spaces transcended mere gaming. They were vibrant, pulsating communities of like-minded individuals. And with its growing popularity, arcade gaming began seeping into mainstream culture. Music artists like Buckner and Garcia charted with Pac-Man Fever, a song dedicated to the iconic Yellow Chomper. Movies such as Tron were inspired by and celebrated the digital world of video games. The success of such media testified to how ingrained arcade gaming had become in the public consciousness. Fashion wasn't left untouched either. Graphic tees with pixelated characters, caps with game logos, and even patches and pins became statements of a gamer identity. Sporting a Space Invader on your tee wasn't just about showing off a game you loved. It was a badge of honor, a nod to a subculture you proudly belonged to. Arcade games even influenced the language of the time. Terms like joystick, high score, and game over began to be used in everyday conversations, and phrases inspired by game mechanics crept into colloquial speech. Moreover, the cultural landscape began to acknowledge the potential of gaming as a legitimate art form. Game design courses sprang up in educational institutions, recognizing the intricacy and skill involved in crafting engaging gaming experiences. But beyond the tangible, arcades played a pivotal role in societal shifts. In retrospect, the impact of arcade gaming was profound. It wasn't just a fleeting fad. It laid the groundwork for the video game culture that thrives and evolves today. As with all phenomena that blaze bright, the golden age of arcades too had its sunset. By the late 80s and early 90s, various factors combined, casting long shadows over the once vibrant arcade scene. Firstly, the rise of personal computing and home console gaming began to challenge the arcade's dominance. Why head to an arcade when games like Super Mario Bros. Or The Legend of Zelda could be enjoyed in the comfort of one's living room? Systems like the Nintendo Entertainment System, NES, and the Sega Genesis offered experiences that rivaled, and in some cases, surpassed those available in arcades. The novelty of playing in arcades faced stiff competition from the convenience and evolving sophistication of home gaming. Financial challenges were another obstacle. The cost of developing newer, more advanced arcade cabinets surged, while revenue began dwindling. Arcade operators found it hard to justify the high investment, especially when foot traffic started to decline. Yet, while the arcade's physical spaces dwindled, their spirit never truly faded. They left an indelible mark on the gaming industry and on popular culture. Today, Many modern games still pay homage to arcade classics, either through gameplay mechanics, aesthetic choices, or even entire reboots. Think of titles like Pac-Man Championship Edition, or the resurgence of retro mini-arcades for home use. And the communal experience of arcades? It's found a new home in online multiplayer games and platforms. While players might not be shoulder to shoulder in front of a cabinet, they're connected globally, competing, collaborating, and sharing moments of joy, much like the camaraderie of arcades. In many cities around the world, barcades, hybrid bar and arcade venues, have emerged, catering to nostalgia enthusiasts and new gamers alike, showcasing that the allure of the arcade era is far from extinct. So, while the sun may have set on the golden age of arcades, their legacy lives on, lighting the way for the future of gaming. They remind us of a simpler time when a pocket of quarters and a passion for pixels could make for an unforgettable evening. And that's a warp on our journey through the golden age of arcade games. Do you have fond memories of arcades? Share in the comments. Remember, with PixelPulse, history is just a play button away. Subscribe for more trips down gaming memory lane.